a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning on an ever-spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your
What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Them is a limited anthology series that explores terror in America. The first season centers around a Black family who moved from North Carolina to an all-white Los Angeles neighborhood during the period known as the Great Migration. The family's idyllic home becomes ground zero, where malevolent forces next door and otherworldly threaten to taunt, ravage, and destroy them. If you have not already, you can check out the first episode here during this year's South by Southwest 2021 and catch the rest of the series in April when it premieres on Amazon Prime Video. Today, I am happy to be with the breakout creator, executive producer, writer, and showrunner, Little Marvin, an Emmy award-winning writer and my friend, creator and actor, Lena Waithe, who also serves as an executive producer for this project, Them. We also have with us the stellar cast. We have Deborah Ayurende, who plays Lucky Emery, Ashley Thomas, who plays Henry Emery, Shahadi Wright Joseph, who plays Ruby Lee Emery, Melody Hurd, who is Gracie Emery, and Allison Pill, who plays Betty Wendell. I am so excited to be here with you guys today to talk about Them. Lil Marvin, I'm gonna start with you. I'm completely and utterly intrigued with this piece. Like I told you earlier, I called Lena and I didn't even have the words at the time to express how I felt after watching this project. First of all, it's so much to unpack, right? And so, but let's start with, this is your first project, no?
My very first TV show, yeah.
Okay.
First experience in every way, creator, in the writer's room, everything first.
Okay, so just explain to me, like, how did this all come to be? Because I think like for this to be your first TV show, this right here is not a game, okay? Because the content,
You don't make me cry.
every aspect about it is so well done. So how did this come about?
Oh, thank you for saying everything you just said. I started writing this, first of all, a lot of rage, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. I started writing this script about 3 summers ago during a time where it felt like I would never stop waking up. Every morning I would wake up and do the same thing, look at Instagram, look at news, and I kept seeing just sort of jangly cell phone footage of Black folks, men, women, children, families, being either threatened by the police, threatened with the threat of the police, generally harassed, surveilled, whether it would be by their neighbors or be by strangers or be by salespeople, a delivery driver just doing the rounds and why are you in our neighborhood, we're calling the police. And it really began to affect me. I started to think about the PTSD of that and the trauma of that and the terror of that and the terror of sort of navigating this country and that gaze in this skin. Since the dawn of this country, public spaces have been weaponized against Black folks. That's no secret, right? So I really wanted to kind of put myself in the seat of that terror and feel it from the inside. That was one piece of it.
Okay.
The other piece was really, you know, like everybody else, I'm thinking about this country a lot and where are we heading, and thinking about the American dream and where we've been, what undergirds it, who historically speaking has gotten the keys to it, who historically speaking has not. And there's no bigger piece of that dream than the dream of home ownership, right? Which we know as Black folks has been anything but a dream. In fact, it's been a nightmare. So the idea of telling a story about home and about the American dream, but through the lens of terror, was really just the beginning of a journey that led me to Jada Pinkett Smith. and the show. Let's prioritize them. Prioritize. Yeah. First Jada Pinkett Smith, then the show.
Yeah.
No, I have to be honest about something. The part of this piece that I found really effective was the way you were able to communicate the spiritual terrorism, right? Through this supernatural dynamic. Tell me how that came to be. Like what made you decide to add that component?
To be honest with you, we led with that component. For me, you know, we had a saying in the writer's room that houses aren't haunted, families are. And the Emery family comes to Compton haunted by like an unspeakable tragedy, which we will begin to unpack over the course of the season. And so, but they're all keeping a very brave face for one another. The fact is that there's a price to be paid for keeping a brave face. There's these fissures and cracks that each of them have, right? We try to stay strong for family, but inside there are these wounds. And as the terror outside the house escalates, those wounds begin to open. And so we really wanted to explore what happens when a malevolence gets inside there and starts messing with their deepest fears, anxieties, rage centers, which, by the way, all of the writers in the writer's room had. We just led with that place of truth and unpacking it. I firmly believe that with trauma in my own life, if you don't bring it out into the light and just give it some light, there can be nothing like healing, nothing like reconciliation. So really truth-telling was the journey, and we led with the emotional terrain first.
I have to tell you, you did a wonderful job with that because, you know, I was so deeply affected. It brought up a lot of stuff for me, you know, and a lot of stuff that I'm looking at and still unpacking. And I thought that was really beautiful, that to use this platform of entertainment that really penetrated the psyche in a way that calls for a real observation of what is happening within. You know what I mean? And I always love projects that have that superpower, because you know that's a rare thing, you know. So kudos, you guys did a wonderful job with that. Lena, what made you decide to come on to this? I want to know, what did you see in this project? What did you see in Little Marvin? What made you come on in?
Well, you know, first the name alone.
What is that? What is that?
You know, and look, I think as a person who has written a ton of things and is always trying to find truth, you know, on the page. And it really came from Mary Yoon. Mary Yoon, who works, you know, with the studio, the production company that we're doing it with, and she Vertigo, and she knew me, you know, anyway, we were friends, and so she is one of those things where she's like, I need someone like you to come on board and make sure this is done in the way it needs to be done. And also she knew about all the things that I had gone through making The Shy and having gone through that. So it's you know, people say having your own show is like being beaten to death with your own dream. And it's true. So it's true. So it's like, it's a lot that goes into making a TV show. People think that it's fun. They like to binge watch the show. It's like so many scars and wounds have happened in order to make this show, in order to entertain you. Right. So when I went and I read it, loved it, and I'm hard to impress on the page because I do it. So I could see that this is a person who had a voice and who knew how to use it. And so I went and had breakfast with Little Marvin, and when we sat down and we talked, and we just clicked instantly. There's a lot of, you know, we have a lot of things in common. And I just said to him, I said, look, I want to go on this journey with you, but my first rule as a producer is to get out of the way and to protect. and also to answer questions and to make sure that we get the right director. I try to point out certain landmines. Sometimes you are going to step on one because you need to. And I mean, and me and Little Marvin just have very real conversations. And I very much realized that, from when I was at your house and you talking to me and you guiding me, it was sort of understood in that moment of, oh, I didn't know it then, but one day I would be in that position that you were in. And so you definitely set that tone, and also you came from a place of protection as well, of like saying, okay, I see you, this is where you're going, let me make sure you do the right things. And so I just stepped in. And so thank you for showing me the way to guide an artist and not step on them or not try to own a piece of their work, but rather make sure it's amplified and make sure that it's done in the way that they need it to be done. So I'm really honored to be on the journey and honored to be a part of introducing Little Marvin and to the world, because there's so many more characters in his head. There's so much more to come. And I'm honored to have my legacy be intertwined with his and all these amazing actors, because the work that they've done, it brings the work to life, and we can't do it without them, as you know, Jada.
Yeah, well, I also want to tell you, thank you for paying it forward, because not everybody does that. And I think for, artists, people of color, it's very important that we flow power in that way. So kudos to you, Lena, because this project is a very courageous one. And so thank you very much. I'd also like to ask you, what were some of the obstacles? I'd like to ask you, and Little Marvin, what were some of the obstacles in regards to production in making this project?
Marvin, where do you want to start?
Oh my God. I mean, we had, look at Allison is like, ha ha ha. Maybe Allison Pill should answer this question, actually. It was crazy. I mean, listen, I know that like all productions are crazy.
Yeah, every production's crazy.
I know that that's true. Our show was crazy in all the crazy ways, and crazy in ways we never could have intended, crazy ways. We're living in a world right now where everything is crazy. And we were the benefactors of that crazy during production. I do have to say, when you're held by your cast and when you're held by your crew, no matter what, on the days that I just want to literally, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I can't do this. Basically, when you're making your first show, you're just trying not to get fired. Let's
exactly.
like every day, like, don't fire me is really basically it.
Yeah.
So like having Deborah, I mean, having this cast, I look at them now, I get super emotional because we just had each other. Lena had us. Everybody had, Miri Yoon had us. The studios, both studios had us.
Yeah.
So that was pretty magical, even if it was difficult.
Because also too, Little Marvin is, I always say, you don't need a pen and paper to be a writer or a camera to be a director. You need vision. And Little Marvin has that in spades. And so I think the greatest thing about that was we did have his brain as our Bible, really. And that's really what we use. And so the thing is, it's about making sure that everybody is aligned with that vision and executing it. And that's also really what we try to do as producers at Hillman Grad, is to make sure that we are executing the vision that is in the artist's mind. Yeah. And that's not always easy. And also too, as actors, Allison, Shahidi, Ashley, Deborah, Melody, they're trying to get in his brain, you know what I'm saying, to make sure they can get out to go home at night. But at the end of the day,
so am I. Incidentally, so am I.
But that is the toughest part, is if you watching something with 8 different people's visions, you don't know where to invest your emotional real estate.
Right.
I think that's why it's so important that with Little Marvin, I always tell people, I'm like, yeah, we can bring other people's visions into it. There has that just comes with it. But at the end of the day, he has to be our North Star. And I think everybody kind of fell in line with that.
Beautiful. Deborah and Ashley. First of all, like, you guys.
Come on.
You guys in this piece do such a wonderful job. Your acting chops, and as Black actors, we don't always get the opportunity to have a project like this, that is the characters and the story is so rich, right? And so when you read this script, personally, what did you charge yourself with as an artist? Like, what did you personally want to bring to this project? Deb, we'll start with you.
For me, honesty was the thing I wanted to bring, because I felt like it was a great opportunity for people to see a layered Black woman,
Mm.
you know, because I feel like so many times Black women are portrayed very one-dimensionally,
Yes.
and it's just so, they're not dishonest a lot of times. And I just felt like when I read the script, I felt like Little Marvin gets it. And I wanted to bring as much honesty. I wanted it to be raw. I spent my time filming, exiting myself and fully stepping into Lucky. Like, I didn't want people to watch it and feel like they were watching me. I felt like I wanted them to completely be watching Lucky. And so yeah, that's what I brought to it.
Well, I tell you, you tricked me, because I had totally forgotten you the girls trip. I was like, I know this beautiful woman. You know what I mean? So you totally did it to me, because I was like, where did I know her from?
It's honestly, and you know what, that is something that I do intentionally. Is just, you know, because I want to show that as Black women we could be anything. You know, so I never want to be put into a box. So usually when I'm out on the street, people never recognize me for 2 projects. They always recognize me for one at a time. They're never like, okay, you're the girl from Girls Trip and you're the this. They're always like one at a time. And for me, I like that because it feels like I've done my job. Like when you're watching me, you're not watching me, you're watching the character. So yeah.
Wow. What about you, Ashley?
I mean, for me, it was like the chance to.
He said the chance. Who is
that?
Who is that?
Stop it, yo, no, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. We're not doing that. We're not doing all that. Listen. Nah, honestly, to be honest, it was like seeing a Black man that was nuanced, had emotion, who was emotionally present, who loved his family, who loved his wife unconditionally, loved his children unconditionally, and that it was written by someone who looks like me, right? So someone who understands all the nuances, all the layers of what it is being a Black man in the world. And for me, that was just what was appealing to it, the chance to come and play that. And if I'm honest, when I read it, because I was given episodes 1 to 3, I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't even know whether I wanted to audition for the part, to be honest, because like, not the horror, just the fact that it was such a weighty character, right? And it's like an important story of American history, Black American history, and how, even though it's fiction, this has happened. Like these events have happened. So how do I come and make sure that I am, if I do get the chance to play that, how can I do that and make sure that I do it justice? You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's more.
It's shocking to me to hear that you were ever scared. I mean, when I hear that, Deb, if I hear, you see the ferocity with which they all attack their roles, and the vulnerability, which I think is actually scarier to show. Allison, I mean, I don't. Are you allowed to just gush over your cast? I don't even know.
Yes, you are.
You are.
Especially this cast. Yes.
Every single one of them, their auditions. I got to see Ashley's audition, and I think I did the cardinal sin. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and I just ran after him like, "You got this." Like I'm not even gonna pretend like this actor didn't get the role. He got it. It was the same with Allison. You have this dream of a Betty Wendell in your head, and then Allison Pill comes in and says, "That's cute. What about we try this?" And then suddenly the character is the character. Same with Shahadi. Shahadi has this magical ability. I'm going to embarrass you over there to just break your heart without words.
Yes.
Without words. And then look at little Melody.
Melody.
You're warned actually as a writer, never write for kids. You're always told, like, don't write a role. You're never going to find a kid who can.
I've done it too. Yep.
And then in walks Melody, and that's it.
Yeah.
I tell you, Ashley, I just want to thank you, because when I watched your character, you resonated for me the essence of Black men that I know. The spirit, meaning the heart, the side that Black men have to deal with in regards to balancing the heart element, the warrior element, the the deep desire to protect and care for his family, and at the same time trying to manage all of the forces, you know, in the outside world that are just beyond his control. And to show a man that is full of, just has a beautiful heart and is just doing his best, you know, under these really stressful, this very stressful circumstance, you know. You just did a wonderful job. I just really enjoyed watching your performance and the dynamic between you and Deborah, because it really gave us, for people who don't understand how racism affects a intimate dynamic, a family dynamic, you know, within our community, you guys just did such a beautiful job. Little Marvin, you as well, with the writing and just the execution. I was like, it really captured that element in a way that I've never experienced before, you know. And I want to talk about one scene in particular that just, it broke my heart, because I was like, my God, this is that moment of deterioration. And I, you know, we've all had that moment in all of our intimate relationships. Just having relationships, period, are difficult for men and women to try to get understanding. Then when you put the component of the racism and the spiritual terrorism that is happening, it just makes it damn near impossible. So the scene that was so dope and deep to me was when you guys were sitting at the table and Deborah hands you that blueberry pie. For some reason, that scene for me was utterly heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because of everything that was not said.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that scene a little bit between Ashley, Deb?
Deborah, go.
Can we just talk about that scene for a minute?
Deborah, go. Yeah. Yeah, you sound like he was gonna talk.
There was so much there.
There was so much there, and I feel like that scene for me, for Lucky, was heartbreaking because she was not believed in that moment. It felt like this strong unit that we had, this team that we had, it felt like it had a fracture.
Yes.
So I felt the betrayal of, you know, with him trying to protect our family, it was still like he
betrayed you.
Yeah, threw me under the bus a little bit, you know.
Mm.
But I think in seeing him just trying to keep it together, but literally crumbling, it was just that moment. It was really, really hard, even for me as Deborah and for Lucky, to just kind of see him just crumble like that.
Yeah. And I felt like at one point, and I could be wrong, but I mean, she knew that pie triggered him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was so interesting to just see how we, as, you know, I saw the moment that you felt he betrayed you, and then you were like, because it was two, when the police came and that whole thing went down, and then when you're sitting at the table and Melody, you know, spoke about what she spoke about, and then you give him this pie.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you want to play this game, you know, and then you watching and seeing, I mean, and he was utterly defiant about it, and he was like, oh no, I'm gonna do this, you did, nah, you're not gonna win this one, right?
The thing is because, you know, when he was going through his PTSD and coming back from the war, you know, she had his back.
Yeah.
And in that moment where, you know, the police come and raid our home, I felt like, Lucky felt like he didn't have hers.
Yes.
Like a true betrayal.
Yep.
And as a Black woman, I know that I have felt many times, just like I'm kind of here on my own. I'm not necessarily as protected as I would like to be, you know? So it was this moment where she just took it too far.
Yeah.
And realized that, oh crap, you know, he did that not to betray me necessarily, but to protect us, really.
Yeah.
You know, because what would have happened if he would have, you know, been defiant to the police officers? Like, what would have happened? We would have all been taken out in that moment. So that was hard.
Yeah, it was deep. It was so deep because I've been there so many times. You know what I mean? And it was like just watching it and understanding what it was. And I was like, dang, it's like it's one of those moments where you have this life or death situation that everybody is trying to handle in the best way that they can, but on the most intimate level. When you're dealing with heart to heart, how that woman, that little girl within you, felt betrayed by the person that she relies on the most in the world. You know what I mean? It's like that extra layer of burden that I was talking about, as far as having to be Black people dealing with all of the racial tension that we deal with.
Meanwhile, all of this is happening in front of our children as well.
Right.
So we're trying to keep it together for them.
Right.
And it's crazy to think just the weight that a lot of Black parents have to hold on their shoulders just to show up every day at whole, at whole enough to be able to take care of their households,
And at the same time trying to take care of each other and love each other.
Trying to love each other. It's like, I hear so many of the elders of my family just think back to when all of us, my cousins, my sisters and I, were younger, and they just say this repeated thing when we were just trying to keep food on the table. We were just trying to make sure you guys had clothes on your back. We were just trying, and I think Lucky and Henry were just trying their absolute best,
Allison.
Yes, Betty Wenlow. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
When I tell you, you are killing this role.
Come on.
You have to be like the most terrifying Karen I've ever seen in my life.
It's the OG Karen.
Yes. I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm like, oh my goodness.
We were doing this before.
I was like, I would never want to run up on this one right here. But let me tell you, you're doing such a beautiful job. And well, first of all, what made you decide that you wanted to play this character? And did you have any reservations? Because it's a hardcore role.
Yeah, I had no reservations about her. I mean, I thought, like, the way LM had created this person and really explored, like, really gotten into the skin of white women generally, of like this, how, vulnerability is weaponized, how this proximity to power feels like power, and our perceived powerlessness leads us into these states of terror. And it's stuff that I had been thinking about too. I mean, I thought exploring that would be really important. And the way it was written, I had no qualms about it. I mean, my reservations about the show were just like, how do you capture this tone? How does it not become sensationalized? Like, how does this violence against Black bodies become the story that it needs to tell? And how do you sort of walk this line between not sensationalizing it and not, not fiction, and also, how do you not beautify it? How do you tell this story and then it's a gut punch? And so trusting LM, I was just like, I think it's what Lena was saying. It's just like this vision thing of knowing that somebody had a vision for it, and knowing that he had thought a lot about white women and explored this in a really interesting way that I hadn't seen. I was like, no problems.
Mm-hmm.
Being part of this project, well, I'm asking you this because I had a bit of a takeaway from watching your character, but I wanted to know, you being part of this project and immersed in this subject matter in the way that you have been, have you had any takeaways working on a project like this?
It was really amazing to work on a project with, most of the projects I've been on are incredibly white, in incredibly white spaces. And to have the opportunity to be a part of something not white was the biggest gift and honor I could imagine.
Okay.
And being in being in a hair trailer. I'm like, I'm gonna get emotional. Being in a hair trailer and there being a barber, and there being everybody getting their wigs done together, and like knowing that we are all being cared for in the same way and respected in the same way, and not like having been silent on these like like insidiously racist spaces previously, to have this openness, to have this it was like life-changing. I'm like, okay, so let's do this.
Right.
This now, please.
Right. Well, I tell you what, one of the things that, and maybe I'm just an idiot, and that could be possible, that I was watching your character, right? And one of the things that a light bulb came off, you know, when you're sitting there at the table with your husband, and you're talking about the fact that your neighbor, who's supposed to be your best friend, is moving and what have you, and you say that you're gonna you know, have this olive branch of going to her house, and she asked for a cup of sugar, so you're gonna go to her house and give her this cup of sugar, and you end up putting it in the gas tank of her brand new car in her driveway. And one of the things that brought up for me was, oh, I get it. Okay, hateful people, like racist people toward, you know, people who don't like Black people, are people that just have a difficulty with kindness, and that hate is just hate. So this is a person that is supposed to be her best friend, and because her girlfriend is inconveniencing her, she decides to basically, you know, be unkind. And looking at that, it gave me a different perspective. A lot of times I'm focused on the fact that racism is about, you know, white people that don't like people with Black skin. And very rarely do I think about that hate is just hate. You know what I mean? It's just a place of lovelessness. And it just so happens that that's one area in which lovelessness is expressed. So that was a takeaway that I got from your character. And so that was a good light bulb moment for me. So thank you for that.
I mean, I so beautifully, like it was written. I mean, just that moment, you get this woman's loneliness, and you also see like white supremacist culture is all about individualism and perfectionism and the things that prevent us from seeing each other and being open to other humans. And it's like the cycles of trauma have continued through this woman's life forever and have prevented her from, like, lovelessness is exactly it. She has never known love. And her way through is just by hating everything and being lonely. It's not a way to live. It's not a culture to put at the top of any kind of hierarchy. You know, it's like, one doesn't work. This is a toxic bad one. Let's not do it.
Right. Well, kudos to you, because it's you're doing a very, very good job with that role. I'll say that one more time. So
is this what a panel is always like? I could do this every day. This is my first panel ever. This is amazing.
Well, when you have a project as dope as this, you know. Shahadi. Am I pronouncing?
Yeah, you said it right.
And Melody. You know, this content is so, you know, intense. And I just want to know, so I guess Shahadi, I'll talk to you first.
Okay.
I want to know, what did you need to do to access, or maybe the content itself was, you know, intense enough that it really didn't, you know, just being in a room of white teenage kids making monkey sounds and you being the only Black girl in that classroom. I guess it really doesn't, you don't have to go somewhere else. You could just be right there in that space.
Yeah.
to be there. What was it like for you in participating in scenes like that? Because it was heartbreaking for me.
Watching it was heartbreaking as well. I think that was probably my most difficult scene out of everything that Ruby and the whole family was enduring. I feel like that was the hardest because I wasn't around, you know, Melody or Ashley or Deb. It was literally just me, you know? And it's not like I was getting to know everybody in the classroom. It was kind of just like, we need to shoot. So it most definitely felt real, you know? And sometimes you have a hard time differentiating yourself from the character. And it's hard to like pull yourself from that. So I think that was the hardest part for me. But yeah, no, that was very, very difficult for me. Just having to watch it. That was insane, but it was shot beautifully. It looks great, but that was, that was tough.
I thought it was.
Can I say something about that scene?
Yes.
Because first of all, Shahadi's at the center of the scene. So you don't have to do much, but just point the camera on her. That's the thing. But like, it really, for me, that scene is so emotional because we've all seen the pictures of like little Ruby Bridges on her first day to school, like proud to be at her first day of school, and middle-aged, you know, white folks are screaming invective and joking. And we've seen all the pictures of Black kids integrating formerly white schools, and they're terrifying. And what I think gets lost is that it's looked at through the prism of the past. We see it as almost like, it doesn't feel visceral, and you forget that there's an actual child on there's always been a child on the receiving end of this violence, always. So how beautifully she was able to go there.
Yeah, and such the level of vulnerability, and just there was it just put me. It was great for me because I felt like, with the way it was shot and with your performance, that anybody who's watching it can't help but feel that they are you. And like Little Marvin was saying, a lot of times we look at pictures and we think about it through the lens of the past, but we don't think about those heroes even those heroes who've had to do it without cameras and without getting recognition for having to walk in spaces like that, you know, that have given us the opportunity to be able to be where we are today. It was really a powerful scene to watch you play. Melody, how do you feel when you have to see spirits in a scene? Is it scary?
It's unbelievable because on the scenes, it's like people actually have to go through this. Right. It terrifies me. It makes me think I can't do anything. It just heartbreaks me.
Right.
And there's a scene. That was probably one of the most worst scenes that I had to go through.
Right.
Imagine me looking at one of my family members going through it.
Yeah.
It's just like, why? Why do people do this just because we're Black?
Right.
Yeah, and so.
Melody, did anybody have to, because how old are you, first of all?
9.
How old?
9.
9, you're 9. Okay, so did anybody, I'm trying to, because you were very wonderful in this, and I'm thinking about a young lady at your age, you know, this is heavy stuff, right? So did anyone sit down with you and kind of explain to you the overall aspect of racism and just kind of the layers of this project? Like, did your parents sit down with you? Did Little Marvin sit down with you? Like, how were you able to have the level of understanding that you have in order to portray this character in such a beautiful way that you are?
My mom showed me a video of what actually happened. So I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Right.
And so when I had to audition for it, I was like, I had to get into it.
Right.
Think of bad things and be those people.
Yeah.
And so then a few days later, I found out I booked it. I was very happy, but at the same time scared.
What made you scared, Melody? And that makes sense, because I would be scared too.
We're all scared.
When I first got on set and the first time I filmed, it was terrifying. I was like, wait, wait, am I dreaming? Is there something happening to me? It
Right.
felt so real.
Right.
My mom was just scared because she was like crying because she saw me going through this, but she knew it wasn't real. But she was also scared because it looked so. And so it made me heartbroken to see her crying. Because imagine if that was me and my baby sister was going through this. I would have been upset. I would have been like, just because we're colored people means nothing. We're really the same. We're just black.
Right.
So
From the mouths
I
of
want you to know you. What were you saying, Lena?
from the mouths of babes.
That's right. That's it. Right there. That's one of the things that makes her performance so super powerful too, is because, you know, there's such an innocence that she's like, what is going on here? Like, you know, like skin. Okay. You know, it's just such a trip to watch that kind of innocence have to deal with these kinds of situations, you know? So.
And the fact
And
that,
ferocity.
yeah, go ahead, Allison.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and ferocity, because Melody, you're also ferocious. If you have not gotten a Melody glare, you were stoned.
I got in trouble almost every time
I've gotten
We all like no good for real. Like she's innocent and also ferocious.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's so interesting to think that, because obviously Melody is a lovely young actress who's pretending to be, you know, a survivor of this terrorism. But imagine our grandparents. You know, I always have to remind people that my mom was born in 1953. Okay, into a segregated America. My mother was born into a segregated America. So as for her, as a young person in the world, experiencing that, she was not on a set, nobody yelled cut, nobody sat and explained things to her. That was just her reality. Right. And then she would grow up and birth me, and then I would have a different reality, and my kids will have a different reality. But also too, we see that our realities still kind of look the same, you know, with our country, you know, still fighting to hold on. It's like Allison's character is very significant, because it's easy to say racist, look away, they're not human. I do love that little Marvin also looks into her character's psyche as well, because there's that, to me, there's nothing more American than Allison's character.
Right.
Something that doesn't really exist anyway.
Right.
You know, and terrorizing his family. And also too, I love that you mentioned that the blueberry pie scene, which also affected me as well. Think about the terrorism, having this Black family turning on each other.
Yes, that's the thing. And it happens all the time. Even to this day, you know what I mean? That's still a real deal reality for Black people. And I don't care how much affluence you have.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing. It, you know, it doesn't protect you from the burdens of, you know, a racist society. It just doesn't, you know?
Right.
So Little Marvin and Lena, I want to ask you, how are you hoping this show impact the viewers that decide to watch it?
Little Marvin, I'm gonna give you the last word. You know, to me, you know, that question, I think, is always posed to an artist when they put something out. You know, it's, how do you expect it to impact people? And it makes me now think about a beautiful Baldwin quote that he wrote about Lorraine Hansberry, and saying that Raising the Sun was not for the generation in which she wrote it to. All the generations that will come after. Right. Not be concerned about how today's audience receives it, but it will always live as a testament to who we are. Art is a reflection of society.
Yep.
Nina told us to always write about the times in which we live. And I think what Little Marvin has done is he's written about us. Yeah. You know, he's written about our country. And even though someone could say, well, it's about the past, but the past is it has a huge effect on our present.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And so I think the thing is like, we will not necessarily be able to determine how people take it, take from it what they bring to it. You know? And it will reflect some things back to people that they may not be ready to look at yet.
That's real.
And so I think it's sometimes people don't want to look at things, they often attack it. When they see too much of themselves, they look away. And so I'm here for those that are willing to go on this journey with us, as difficult though it may be, because when they get to the end of it, it won't just be some show that they binged or some thing that they kind of got entertained by, but rather it'll be a reflection on who we are as a people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I love that you spoke about it as a journey, because I got blessed to see 2 episodes. I'm waiting for it to come out because I'm
we can hook you up. LM, hook her up. LM, hook her up.
I will get you.
But I have to say that it definitely put me into a deep exploration in a lot of ways. And I was like, I don't want to stop the journey now. I want to continue it. So after this call, after we do this, I'm gonna have my folks call some folks.
Yes. Please.
But yeah, it's definitely a journey, and it's I'm hoping that a lot of people are going to be willing to explore it for sure. Lil Marvin, what about for you?
I think everything Lena just said is truth. For me, the past is always present.
Yeah.
It's in the way we live, and just because it seems innocuous or everyday, it's not gone. Like, it's in the ether of what we breathe. I think the last year has shown us in true terms, there's a lot of trauma trapped in this country. And we do ourselves a disservice by not unearthing it. My only hope really is that it just sparks curiosity. My journey of this has been pretty amazing. Like, folks come up to me even during the making of it. I have a sound designer named Justin who was having dinner with a friend, and he was talking about the show. And then that person got curious. They're like, what's a covenant? I never knew those things existed. So then that friend went and dug up the old deed to the house, and they sent me the original covenant. And it's been that experience just throughout the journey of making the show. So my hope is that we just, people see it and get a bit curious about the extent to which people have fought to be where they are, the extent to which people have fought to stake their claim, the American dream.
Well, I just want to say, that this is a really courageous, important piece of art. And, just kudos to all of you for having the courage and the talent to execute and communicate, the messaging and the essence in the way that you have just around the, African-American experience. And, just thank you. And do any of you have anything else that you want to say or add?
I just say Jada Pinkett Smith on every panel for life. I know you're busy, but is that possible?
I need it. I love it. Like, Jada's like the host. You hostess now.
Oh my gosh. No, I just had a very personal, emotional experience in watching this, the 2 shows that I got to see on many different levels, just from from a strictly creative standpoint. The way in which the story was told, this combination of real history. And I love psychological thrillers. I love ghost stories. I love horror, you know what I mean? And so you had all these, I love examining relationships, and then I just love great talent, right? So it had all these different components, like in one beautiful tapestry of them. So
I knew you love it. Like,
when you said I need to check it out.
Like, you don't love this thing, and thank you again, Jada, for all that you've done. It's like we obviously in our business, we have a lot of people that we look to, and the word, especially since we lost Miss Tyson, the word icon gets thrown around a lot, and we be very mindful of that. But you're definitely one of those titans that has shown us, with the choices that you've made, about how to be so authentically yourself, and how to open up doors, and how to, as you did, you opened up the door to me to say, yes, welcome, come on, the water's warm. And then I was able to have that same language for LM, when that time came, and I know he'll do it for someone else. And so I just really want to thank you for all that you've done, in our industry, but for us as a community. I think you really are a beaming light, and we're very grateful for your presence. So thank you.
Thank you, Lena. I appreciate that. It's my duty and my pleasure. So thank you. And thank you all for being here with me today, and good luck. And
Thank you.
I'll be posting and supporting.